Hi, everybody. You know, freedom is kind of a funny thing. It just escapes us when we kind of least know it. Can you remember being a child before we learned all the things, before we reined ourselves in from that natural being with all the shouldn'ts and shouldn'ts that we were told that as adults were necessary? Healing allows us to re-experience that freedom that we are, and it's so wonderful. Once you know it, you can't unknow it, but you can hide it. You can sort of disguise it in a way that you don't recognize it, get preoccupied by things where you just sort of neglect it. But can we allow ourselves that freedom again? That's the point. Can we allow ourselves that freedom again? Because, as I said, once you know it, you can't really unknow it. You stand in awe. You stand in awe of it as well. It's just perfect. We stand in awe of it. We don't require evidence. I mean, research is lovely. It's nice. Allows you to validate some of the things that we already know. Not just that we're thinking or wondering about or imagining. It allows us to validate things we already know. We already know on the inside, because once you receive knowingness, no explanation is necessary, is it? Ever stood in that moment where I just know? I just know. No explanation, no evidence, no research support is really necessary. It's nice, it's lovely, it's simply not required. It's simply not required. It reminds me of a story about a little girl sitting in class, and she's busy drawing, sketching away on a piece of paper, and I guess the teacher's walking around the room and looks down at her and says, "What are you drawing?" And the little girl looks up and says, "I'm drawing a picture of God." And the teacher, well-intentioned, probably, says, "Nobody knows what God looks like." And without skipping a beat, the little girl says, "They will now." That's knowing. It makes no difference whether it can be proven in 1,000 double-blind randomized studies. The ability of researchers and research studies to prove something represents only the ability of those researchers, the ability of that study design. It does not mean, if it can't be proven, that it isn't. That little girl just knew. They will know what God looks like now. Isn't that perfect? Before we reined ourselves in with all the shoulds and shouldn'ts and adult limitations that we're supposed to grow into, we were taught. But before that, we realized, hey, this is just who I am. And really now, it's a wonderful opportunity to recognize that, wow, this is just all consciousness doing this, right? It's all consciousness doing this. Wow, I mean, there's no more perfect reason for the existence of the word wow. Okay? Healing and our beingness are not two different things that need to be connected. They are one. Healing, our beingness, love, God, it's one. Now, can you say this? Because I can. And I believe that you can. I know what healing is. and I know where healing lives. Say that. Say that to yourself. I know what healing is, and I know where healing lives. Healing lives in the heart. It's expressed in our very DNA. And it is you. So you know what healing is. You know where it lives. You know that it is sacred, and therefore, cheers. Know that you are sacred. And every time we question our value, let's remind ourselves that we know who we are, where we live, that we are love, we are God, we are healing, and therefore, you are sacred. Very important. Just think, I saw this morning, just think of the infinite intelligence that created the birds and the bees and the sky and the trees and the universe and the planets and the stars and everything else. Said, and now it's time for you to be created, to be a part of this. It was a decision. You weren't an accident. You're not the result of some kind of oops oversight. You're part of this infinite design. We hear the words. Oh God, we hear the words. But pause and listen. Reconnective healing is where all of our healing methods, approaches, techniques come together. It's that connecting point. It's a connecting point. You know, it's sort of like, I was writing something the other night. Let me see if it's still here. Oh. Here we go. Look at this. So, first of all, before I get into that, I want to apologize for something. And, you know, there's a difference between needing to apologize and wanting to apologize. Because when you want to apologize, well, then an apology is back. So, needing to apologize, feeling you should apologize, it's not the same thing as wanting to apologize. So let me try this a little bit this way. I wrote some of this down, and I'm going to read you a little bit of what I was just writing off the top of my head last night. And because I noticed how many people would, over the years, walk away from, after attending the Reconnective Healing Seminar, and hear them saying, well, if I'm going to practice Reconnective Healing, I don't know if I want to, because then I'm not allowed to practice or do my healing techniques. So here's what I wrote, and I haven't even read it since I wrote it sort of as free-flowing. So we'll see what comes out of my mouth. I wrote, I apologize for saying don't do this technique or that technique. And I apologize for how it was taken. I could have and would have expressed it differently had I realized how to. What I was trying to express was that techniques, what I was trying to express was not what was received as techniques are being bad or taboo. They're not. I would say in my younger enthusiasm and excitement, when you're younger, pendulums swing. Look at the people on the college campuses. They think one side is right and the other side is wrong, and give them some time to mature. But meanwhile, I swung the pendulum in my words to an extreme, pretty much based upon actions and cognitive choice of actions, when in reality the love I was wanting to express is that our energy healing techniques are all sequestering, showing us certain aspects of infinite healing. As they say in I think it's called internal family systems, IFS, I don't know, it's a very interesting popular approach in psychology today. All of your parts are good parts. That's not exactly the words they use, but they're all desirable. All of our parts, all of our things, and every technique that gives us a portion of infinite healing is wonderful, okay? So I wasn't trying to say, and I'm sorry if you came away with that impression, that they were bad, as much as simply observing that they're limiting, okay? Techniques tend to be limiting. That's why we tend to want to learn multiple techniques, because we realize that one by itself isn't it. It's a limitation. Like the ice tray analogy I used, last week or the week before. And we should delve into these energy healing techniques if they are calling to you, if they're speaking to you. Delve into them and explore them. They're not undesirable, but don't become trapped in them, okay? There is no, this is the technique. There is no, the technique, okay? There just isn't. It's like saying, this is the ice cube, and those other 11 are wrong. No, it's all a part of water. It's all infinite. So, ultimately, we don't want to be trapped in one technique because, and we won't be. You won't be. You won't be trapped in a technique because your essence, your beingness knows that you're infinite and doesn't choose to be limited by anything. So we won't be trapped in them because our essence knows that we're infinite, and eventually we sort of just forget. Forget to stay in these techniques, but there is truth in the expression, all roads lead to Rome. No, it does not literally mean Rome or the Vatican or Catholicism. It's just, I don't even think it came up. I think it came up before Catholicism anyway, but it doesn't matter. All roads lead to Rome, meaning all roads lead to healing. So, however, you need to complete the journey of that road to get to Rome. Otherwise, you're perpetually on your way, but not there. So, the concept that all roads lead to Rome may be wonderful. But then what do you suddenly discover when you get to Rome? You're not on that road any longer. You're there. Reconnective healing is the meeting point for all of these roads. You're not just in Rome. You're not just there. You're here because you recognize that there only is a here. It's the meeting point. Reconnective healing is the meeting point of everyone and everything. It's the meeting point of all healing, where we suddenly, in our observation and our recognition, realize that our roads, our techniques, dissolve because their function has been served. And there you are. There you are. God, love, infinite being. This is what healing is. You are what healing is. This is where healing lives. This is home. This is you. Really in observation, all of us are really looking for, under however we describe it, we're looking to find God. We're looking to find love. We're really looking to find ourselves. Even science is searching for this, right? We all search in different ways. We all consider different markers as evidence. We look and we look and we look until we realize that evidence isn't really required by truth. Evidence isn't really required. Lovely, but not required. Our persona craves evidence. Our personas, our personalities, our egos, our self-doubt craves evidence. But you are not your persona. You are not your ego. You are not your self-doubt. You, as infinite you, knows that evidence has always been an illusion. It validates that part of us, the persona part of us. It allows us to feel good, because if that allows us to feel good because of that external validation. But deep inside, we know that the only thing that isn't an illusion, the only thing that is not an illusion is your knowingness, your felt sense of knowingness. And once we allow our lives to be guided and led by our inner knowingness, once you allow your life to be guided, to be led by your inner knowingness, you no longer feel compelled to convince or teach or prove or substantiate. Your validation, your knowingness is the only validation that's required. It really is. We struggle with ego. I remember when I was first being brought onto I guess I'll call it a tour, the speaking presentation journeys. And someone said to me, always remain humble. Don't let your ego run you. And I said, in all integrity, I will. This is who I am. But you see, who I am got covered up many times by layers and layers of ego. I didn't even notice it sneaking up. Now, ego is within every one of us. All of my ego is within you. All of everyone's ego is within me. All of everyone's ego is within us. It's not separate. It's not a divider. When it obscures one person from seeing themselves, it obscures each of us from seeing ourselves, from recognizing who we are, from being the playful beings that we were to running around looking to protect and defend ourselves. Joe Hudson, I love listening to Joe Hudson. He's someone Jillian and I recently got turned on to. He said, and this is a paraphrase from someone else he was quoting. He said, you can try to crack your ego, burn your ego, evaporate your ego with 1,000 surrenders. The only problem with whatever approach you take is that ego never existed in the first place. Try that one on for size. You can try to crack your ego, burn your ego, beat the crap out of your ego. The only problem with whatever approach you take to get rid of, to kill your ego, is that it never existed in the first place. And all of everyone's ego is within us. Sometimes the simplest way of summing something else is really the clearest. It's the most powerful. We dance around things by trying to make them, our explanations, more complicated and factual and reinforced and detailed, and knock it off. The most difficult part, the only problem with whatever approach we take to trying to kill the ego is that the ego never existed in the first place. I mean, what more needs to be said about that than that? Okay? And if we feel the need to say more about that than that, what's feeling that need, that illusion of ego in the first place? You know, a lot of us, we think we want to strive for enlightenment. We say, I want to be enlightened. I'm looking for enlightenment. I am striving for enlightenment. And as Joe said, it overlooks the understanding that I, the word I, is the barrier to it. Because we're looking at I, the persona, the personality, which is really that illusionary separate self. The infinite I, the big I, knows that you already are enlightenment. So you're not striving toward it. You're just looking to recognize it, to reveal who you are to you. That you are enlightenment. It's not missing. You know, it's not sitting at the counter at Woolworths having a grilled cheese sandwich. Never mind, most of you are too old to understand that, but anyhow. And then we misinterpret ego, right? We tend to think, we say to people, oh, you've got such an ego, because what triggers us to say that? Well, when someone is acting very self-important, so we start to think, ego is I'm important. And then we get confused when someone tries to share with us that ego is not only that feeling of I'm important, but ego is also I'm not important. As Joe Hudson explains, ego is not only I'm important, it's I'm not important. So when you're given a giant compliment, he says, notice where inside of you you begin to resist that compliment. That is also ego. Oh, no, that's not me. Yeah, it is. That's also our ego. And that's sometimes tricky or confusing to look at because we don't view it that way. So we sort of push away compliments. We've been taught that in a lot of societies. We don't feel worthy of them. We don't accept them. We're pushing away compliments and taking them as true are both what build up larger and larger egos. Now, like taking a compliment with grandeur. Quietly receiving both compliments and negative comments, shall we say, gives us a chance to explore how permeable can I be? Am I willing to allow myself to experience all the feelings that come inside? Joe explains, yeah, you can compliment me and tell me that I'm wise. And he'll say, and I'll say, yes. And I can give you 10 ways that I'm wise. And he'll list some of them off. Just examples. What happened maybe recently. And Joe says someone can call him a real asshole. And he'll say, yes, and I can give you 10 ways in which I was a real asshole today, just in traffic alone. Well, let's think about it. I can think of more than 10 sometimes. But the reason for exploring this is that the more we allow ourselves to own without defense who we are, our strong points, our weak points, our seemingly good points, our seemingly not so nice points, the more I own it, the less likely I am to become dangerous or narcissistic around that. Think about that. Take it in. The more you own your good points, your nice points, your not so nice points, the positive ego, what we consider the other ego, what we consider a negative ego when really nothing's positive or negative, the more we just own that, the less defensive we become around it, the less attacking we are around that. I found this so true. I don't know about you, give it a little consideration, but I found it so true when Joe Hudson says, usually when we're defensive around things we don't want to accept about ourselves. That's really what we're defensive about. Things we don't want to accept about ourselves. Usually because there's simply an emotion that we don't want to feel. Just an emotion that we don't want to feel. So we're in defense of that. Those are our responses. And when we accept and own it, the need to defend suddenly seems gone. Now I see Brent Mosley, you're in the request to join box. Gonna hit. Okay. Now you seem to have disappeared. Oh, there you are. Let's try again. Come on, Brent. Come on in. We're working on it. Brent, you might even want to come back in because I'm not sure why I'm not getting you. I'm hitting the accept button, I'm holding it, and I'm trying. So maybe come back on and we'll try it again. Any of you who have something that you want to share on today's conversation, in this discussion, go into the request box. That's that little box down the bottom of the picture that you're looking at. It looks like a square with a plus in it and something sticking out to the right. That's supposed to be a video camera. Okay, it's supposed to be a movie camera. So it's a box with a plus and something sticking out. And this keeps saying, Brad, that you're unable to join, which probably means that that Instagram is having difficulty getting you connected with this. So I'm trying. And Brent, if you want to pull out and resubmit, I'll try it again. Okay? You know, self-discovery is not always easy. And that's really a good thing. Because if we're willing to go into that path of self-discovery, it means we're really committed to getting rid of the garbage layers that aren't us and finding ourselves. Jillian and I are doing this, even now we're spending more time looking at ourselves, talking about ourselves, Not just what's comfortable, what's not comfortable, and sitting in it, the acceptance of it. It's very healthy for a relationship. A relationship that has no arguments and no fights is usually not a healthy relationship. You know, it's not about how many fights you have. It's about how nicely and fairly and respectfully you fight, you argue. It's not about calling each other names or, you know, giving digs at each other. It's about how respectfully can you disagree? And that helps build wonderful relationships. Joe, I apologize. I mean, not Joe, Brent, I apologize. I have tried multiple times to get you into this, and I am trying. Okay. But it doesn't seem to be happening right now. Self-exploration. If everything was really easy, we think we would love that. But where would the value be in that? Now, there is value. Here's one of the things that I love, because we do love things that feel easy, about reconnective healing. When you are receiving reconnective healing, when you are in that experience of your reconnective healing, there is not resistance. There is not struggle. There is not argument. There is not confusion. There is simply beingness. And so often we come out of that with the most amazing healings, and we weren't even aware that we were addressing them or that they were taking place. And sometimes we're not sure that we're ready to be in that complete release healing. So out of habit, we and our partners and whoever else go back into some of the less desirable forms of interaction. So it's important to look at things, to explore, whether it's, internal family systems or other approaches to help us look at ourselves and the parts that comprise us, just like looking at the energy healing techniques as limited parts. They comprise healing itself. They're parts until they all come together at that reconnecting point when the roads that lead to Rome are no longer required, because you're here. You're already here. And yet, travel on the road has helped. Your life travels bring insights, and they help. They help us recognize that you're receivers. Okay? I receive best when allowing instead of trying, searching, seeking. Our DNA receives in its and in our most at ease moments. My coming from love is the DNA of reconnective healing. It's not where I'm moving my hands and what I'm doing and where I'm feeling it and what I'm looking for. My presence, my beingness as who I am, which is love, which is what is often expressed as, are you coming from love? We're not really coming from love, because you can't ever leave love, but as love, that's the DNA of reconnective healing. The rest of it is exploration. Feeling, playing, I feel a sensation, I move my hand this way, I feel something over there. It's bringing us more into a cognitive recognition our felt sense of knowingness. But ultimately, and this sounds so simple, and yet it's not simple once we try to do it. It's only simple when we allow ourselves to be that. Is it's love. It's all love. It's just all love. Now you might not get that from me and my glorious various personalities or anyone else necessarily. Maybe some people. That's lovely. Um, but being love is the DNA of reconnective healing. It is that reconnecting point, and yet all that's reconnecting is the illusion that we'd ever separated in the first place. So if you're looking for what to add to it, let it go. You can't add anything to love. You can't add anything to the infinite. Just be in observation of it, and that's in observation of you. Okay? So thank you very much for being here to share my ramblings of exploration. Hopefully that helped you ramble under a few explorations of yourself. We'll be here again, same time, same place, next Wednesday. And in approximately 30 minutes, join us in Solomon Speaks. Okay, the Solomon Speaks Zoom meeting. I'm sure there's something right in here with a link for it, but if not, it's on our website. Just go to reconnectivehealing.com or reconnectiveacademy.com and scroll down, and you'll see, the Reconnective Healing community, or just go to Solomon Speaks. Okay, it's free. Oh, look, here comes a link. It's just like magic. Lexi Alexandra put it in there. Thank you so much. 333 Lexi, come join us and listen to the Solomon Study Group presented by Jillian and Dr. Eric Pearl at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, and a couple of other time zones in Europe that I'm not sure what the initials stand for, but come join us, join us, join us. Love you. See you there soon. Bye.